Okay, today we are doing Mishnah 3. Mishnah 3, I'm going to put it on the screen for you. Fix the screen. Share it with you. So this Mishnah is the next generation. Begins with Antigonos ish socho kibel mishimon hatzadik. So we had Anshe Knesset Hagadola, right, the men of the Great Assembly. The end of that period was Shimon HaTzadik, and now we are into the next generation, and the next leader is Antigonos. Interesting name because it's a Greek name. It's our first sage with a purely Greek name. So you see already this is the period where the Greek influence has already been in Israel. And he received the tradition from Shimon HaTzadik. Hu haya omer, and he would say, Al tiyu chavodim hamishamshin es harav al manas lekabel paras. Do not be like a servant who serves his master for on the condition that he's going to receive a reward. Ella rather, hevu kavodim hamishamshin es harav shalo al manas lekabel paras. Be like a servant who serves his master not for the purpose of receiving a reward. And then one last line, Vihi mora shamayim alechem, and the fear of heaven should be upon you. We're going to take more than one session to do this. So we begin with Antigonos. He is, as we said, the continuing from Shimon HaTzadik, and he's in kind of an in-betweener here, because after Antigonos, we became a period known as the Zugot, which is the pairs, and after him, there are going to be two leaders in each generation for the next 5 generations. Now, the Mishnah tells us that he said an interesting statement. He said, don't be as servants who serve the master to receive a reward, but rather someone who serves to not receive a reward. And it sounds like, and this is something which we'll talk about maybe tomorrow also, the historically misunderstanding of this Mishnah, but is it okay to, when you do perform a mitzvah, what should be your motivation? Should your motivation be receiving a reward or not? Is there something wrong with being motivated to receive a reward? And we know that there is a reward for mitzvahs. Torah promises it many, many situations. Torah says all the time, if you're going to do the mitzvahs, I'm going to reward you, right? We say it in Shema even. We say it every day. The Gemara brings down in the tractate of Pesachim that if a person when you give tzedakah, right, you want to give money to charity, and you give the money and you say, I'm giving this money so that, and that example that the Gemara gives is so that my son, someone had an ill child and says so that my son will live, or you say that I will be someone who receives olam haba, I will be deserving of the world to come. And you're giving it for that, your motivation. I'm giving it for that reason. That person is considered fully righteous. And we don't say, the ulterior motive, that's not very nice of that person. That doesn't show that he really means it. And yet it counts. The Gemara does give examples that where you can do something with that request. But Antigonos is telling us there's a higher level. It's true that if you do a mitzvah for the sake of the reward, you've done a mitzvah, it counts. But that's not the highest level of mitzvahs. There's different levels in terms of how you can perform an act. And someone who is doing it not for the purpose of the reward, that's a higher level. And it's okay to expect a reward, but it's not the ideal. The ideal is to do it out of love of Hashem. And when a person is doing it out of love, so you're not necessarily looking for reward, right? A lot of times you can do something which has a good reason for it, and there's in the end you also get a reward, but that it wasn't necessarily your motivation. So it comes out there are actually different levels. So the highest level is a person who serves Hashem out of love. That we call that a chassid, not like the chassidim of today, but the word chassid, a person who's really dedicated, does it for the only because you care about Hashem, you love Hashem. And in human relations, it's the same thing, right? We say, when you do something for someone you care about, what's your motivation? Are you doing it because, I'm going to get something out of it, or you're doing it because you care about that other person, right? When you do it, you do it with I care about the other person has more meaning. It's certainly a higher level. The second level would be someone who does it for the reward, but I don't need immediate reward. I don't need immediate gratification. So yeah, the reward Hashem will give. I'm sure Hashem will reward me in the world to come, right? And I don't see the reward now. I don't see that. Oh, look, I did this mitzvah. Boom, I got paid back. I'm still doing it. That is completely righteous. That's the case that the Gemara was talking about. The third case, though, this is the lowest level, but it still counts, is a person who does it only for the reward. You're only doing it for the reward. But the problem with that is if you're only doing it for the reward and you're only doing it because you want to see tangible results, then a person who does not see those results says, I'm not going to do it. Doesn't count. I reject it. And that's the problem with only doing it for immediate instant gratification type of thing. And just the end of the Mishnah we mentioned was the idea of the fear of Hashem. So we also know there's a relation that the Torah gives us between love and fear. There's two ways you can do a mitzvah. One, you do a mitzvah because you love Hashem. Another way you can do it is because you fear Hashem. A fear is because, I know I'm going to get punished if I don't do it. Right? That's the idea of fear. We believe in Hashem. We say 100%. And I know if I transgress this, if I do that sin, or if I don't do the mitzvah that I'm obligated to do, I've done the wrong thing. I'm going to get punished. So sometimes we do things only for that reason. That's one level. Higher level is to do it out of love. And the Torah tells us that the reward is greater when you do it out of love than when you do it out of fear. And Torah indicates that the reward is not just in your lifetime, but it could come for 1,000 generations, that your merit. Like, we're still living on the merits of Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. We say it every day, right, in their merit. So our ancestors, our antecedents will receive reward for our behavior also. 1,000 generations if we only did the mitzvah because we feared Hashem. 2,000 generations if we did it because we love Hashem. So that's also a thing. And one other thing about the idea of why the Mishnah even mentions the idea at the end of fear Hashem is because it's, even though you love Hashem, and let's say you are on that high level and we're doing it purely out of love, you still have to maintain that idea of fear or awe. Sometimes we know you can get a little too close, right? Let's say a kid loves their parents. They should love their parents, but there's a difference between the parent and the child. The parent is not your sibling. The parent is your parent, and there's a certain level of respect that still needs to be maintained. And sometimes you get a little too chummy with somebody else, where there's an obligation to have an amount of respect. Then you sort of forget about the idea. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to treat this person with a certain reverence, and then it creates a problem. And therefore, even with Hashem, it's a little difficult for us to imagine us becoming chummy with Hashem. But maybe think of Moshe Rabbeinu, who was very close, right? And he was able to talk to Hashem, and even Moshe stepped over the line in conversation with Hashem when he speaks too familiarly, and he says to Hashem, like, why did you make it even worse for the Jews when you sent me to talk to Paro, and look what happened. He made it worse. They have to work harder, right? So he was a little bit maybe too friendly, if you will. So there's an idea that love and fear are both necessary, and even though we're going to be very close, we still have to always remember there's a certain distance we have to keep with those who we have an obligation to treat with respect and awe and reverence. And in practice, in many situations, that's not so easy. Obviously, I think with our relation to Hashem, it should be a little easier. Ideally, with people who are older than us, it should be also something that we're able to, or people of authority. However, again, when the person of authority and is able to maintain a very close relationship with someone, we have to be very careful not to go over the line and to treat them on less than the respect that they fully deserve. And we'll hold it here for today. We'll finish the Mishnah tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone.